What's up, guys? I'm your host, David Ramsey, back with the COVID mini-series. Today, I am with students Jacob Grimsley and Jackson Lawrence for episode 2 of the small series of episodes that we're doing from a student's perspective. So, during this episode, we're going to kind of talk about the positive and negative aspects of COVID. So, let's just start out with some positive aspects. What have you guys really enjoyed about this pandemic?
Okay, this is something that we've talked about a lot, I think, both just in casual conversation and also, it's like kind of what everyone is asking, it's what you hear at pretty much anywhere you go. Everyone's like, can we, talk about the good things? You can go with like the super like common answer, it's like, because they're true, even though everyone says them, it's like we all, at the beginning, during quarantine, we all got more time with our family and more time alone, which is something that some people hate, but, it's also very valuable in certain aspects. And for me personally, it also made me appreciate things differently, because I remember, in my personal life, I remember before we kind of got quarantined, there were days where I was like, I don't want to go work out, like, to our public gym. And I remember, like, during quarantine, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'd feel terrible, I just want to go there. That's all I want to do. So it's, like, something that you appreciate more, like, just being in public spaces. And even something that I haven't been to, like, really been involved in, but something that I've seen a lot is a lot of people miss concerts. It's like that's something that we were like, oh yeah, like we can just get tickets and go to a concert. But like, it's so weird to think now, like that, like 9 months ago, there were people at concerts like all over each other and jumping and stuff. And I think like, gaining perspective is one of the most valuable things you can get. So I think as a positive, like that's got to be like number one, is just the alternate perspective, because now, especially our generation, like having this growing up, like in the middle, basically like of our most formative years, end of high school, beginning of college, like having that appreciation, I think going to college will also make us like seek out new experiences in a different way, rather than just like, oh, it's what everybody does. Like, let's rush, at college, or, let's do whatever. It's like, we can, we get to do this. Like, we have a privilege, because that's like a lot of things that you would call like, quote, privileges were taken away. So I think that perspective is the biggest positive for me.
Yeah, I agree. Like, pretty much like, I guess quarantine kind of like, one of the biggest positives was it kind of showed me like the things that I took for granted, like the things that you think are like given or just constant in your life, like really aren't, like just those, being at home, like, for, like, just an extremely long amount of time, it made me appreciate more kind of those, like, small interactions, like those short interactions that you had with your friends, like, just being able to see your friends, like, for a second, or just going out, hanging out, like, going out to eat, stuff like that, going to the store, maybe, stuff like that, or just, hanging out, in, like, a car ride, kind of made me appreciate that stuff more, and I think, as we kind of come out of this like quarantine period and we start to get more involved socially, I take that stuff for granted a lot less, and I appreciate it more, and I think that's something I'm definitely going to keep for the rest of my life coming out of this crazy time.
Yeah, I definitely think that a positive aspect for me has been, and it kind of goes with what you guys are saying, it's made me really weed out like what is necessary and what isn't necessary in my life, because you start missing out on so many things that you realize like, okay, I value this more than this, and it has really helped me get my priorities straight, and I'm a lot more
conscientious.
Yeah, it's made me more conscientious of not only my words but my actions and what I do in a day. Because you have such a long amount of time. We had it from spring break until September, actually, yeah. Not going to school. So what do you do? What do you do for that long of a time with no responsibility to the world? I went through so many hobbies, like you guys have seen all the different things. I went into gardening. I built a garden in my backyard. All the plants died because I kind of lost interest in it. I started different workout phases, different dieting phases. I've gone through so many phases that it almost feels like I've gone through all of these years in my life in a couple of months. I've matured so much since January. So definitely a pro would be it's helped me prioritize and it's helped me mature as a human being a lot faster than what I would have done if we didn't have this whole pandemic. So,
Yeah.
Do you guys have any more positives, or do you want to just jump right into the negatives?
I mean, just to like retread sort of what you're talking about, like I think we really underestimated the value of that free time, because and it's something that I think a lot about, or not think, I think and talk a lot about, is like the amount of time that we spend waiting on the next thing is so much wasted time, in my opinion, and I hate it because I do it too. It's like you're waiting on this date, or you're waiting on this thing to come out, or this day to be over. You're just waiting on this or that, and you're just sitting there like not doing anything in the present, and that's like it's such a waste. And so I think a lot of people were just waiting for quarantine to be over, and realistically, like, we're not out of it. Like, we're in the middle of it right now. Like, we will possibly be quarantined again the same way, and it's like I think the positive was really our choice. It's really up to personal choice, personal interpretation, because you can wait, like you can sit around and wait, or you can do what you did. You can explore new hobbies, or try to find out new things about yourself through that, or through whatever it might be, like meditation, reading, like whatever. I think that the other positive is that was there for people who wanted it. And that's something that every day we're just shoved full of things to do, and we have so little time for ourselves that, like, we got 6 months, 9 months of self-care, and, it's like optional, but it was there if you wanted it. So I think that's also...
I know, I definitely think that it exposed the truest roots of a lot of people. And we're actually going to kind of go into this next episode, so stay tuned. It's definitely changed a lot of like our peers, people our age, and that has, affected our relationship with them, which we will talk about next episode. But it's definitely, for me, it's been a good thing and a bad thing. I definitely had some life changes that weren't to do with COVID during that break that I actually am blessed that they happened during that break, because it actually gave me a isolated time with my mind to really kind of sort some things out that I didn't get to sort out during daily life. I feel like during daily life, you're stuck on autopilot for so long, especially when you're going to school every day and you're a junior in high school, which is known to be like the most stressful year. You don't really have time to unwind and think about how you feel, because you have no time to think about how you feel. You're like, oh, I don't feel good. Doesn't matter. Still have to turn in this paper by midnight, or I get a 0 on the assignment. Like, you're constantly on autopilot doing things, doing extracurriculars. So that extended period of time takes you off autopilot, and you have to really sit down and think, what makes me happy? Because I have to do what makes me happy for God knows how long. And if I don't, I'm going to drive myself up a wall. So, like, what is about to happen?
Well, and I also, I guess this can be sort of positive and negative, but, I would say the negative is that it was still a hard thing that a lot of people had to get over, but the positive is that maybe some people realized it. And I think the problem with a lot of teenagers is that we always put ourselves last on the list, and... Well, that's not in, depending on, I'm going to explain, but not in that way. A lot of teenagers are very self-indulgent, but I would say, like, as far as, personal, like, health, mental health, it's like we spend so much time like doing other things, like trying to complete other things, and it's like, okay, I have to finish this and then I can worry about my personal life, then I can worry about my mind. And it's like the list of things that you have to do as a teenager in high school is never going to end. Like, you know, so you like your mental health is just going to keep just going down and down and down, and it's never going to get to the top. And I just feel like the farther that you push yourself down that list, like the worse it gets, because we're especially if you're sort of your parents or your teachers or whoever or yourself push yourself to achieve academic achievements, that push yourself to be the better, the upper part of your academic class at your school. It's like it never ends, because one assignment can just like destroy you. And we get assigned things every single class, every other day, or even, sometimes more frequently than that. And it's like, when can you really confront yourself, because I mean, I've been there so many times. It's like, I don't have time to think about this right now. Like, I have so much homework, or not even homework, but like, even if you don't want to go with the concrete, like, assignments, it's like the stress stops you from confronting your feelings, because, stress makes you lock up mentally, because all you can think about is how stressed you are. And if that's all you can think about, like, you have no room for anything else. You have no room for growth, or you have no room for even like contemplation of how you feel. And like, I'm not like a doctor or anything, obviously, but like, it's not really surprising, like, as a teenager who's grown up in this environment, that so many people our age, so many of our peers have mental illness or mental health issues, and it's like,
or issues that they don't even know about.
Yeah. And because we're taught, like, and, not even know about, like, people are just like, you're fine. And like, you hear that all the time. Like, your parents are like, stop stressing about school. It's like, how can I stop stressing? Like, this is my life. This is my future. Like, that's what you've always told me, right? Like this is everything that matters, is that I get these assignments done and that I do well on them. And it's like, yeah, I get it. And that's why I really had a lot of respect for one of my teachers that I had junior year, because I remember one class, he was talking about sort of like risk reward in your brain, and just, it was my psychology teacher. So it was like a lot of that, like our mental training. And he was like, one of the best things you can do is learn to analyze consequences and accept those, because as humans we do everything we can to avoid consequences, but the reality is every action has consequences, and sometimes you have to be okay with consequences, with accepting them and living with them, because that's something, to bring it back, basically my point in this is that, like, that's something that a lot of people might not have realized until COVID, and it's like, I have time for myself now, and oh my gosh, I've been, putting this off for so long. Like, there's so much crap just bottled up from the past year, the past 6 months, like, especially like you were talking about the most difficult time. I mean, just to like, get through it again quickly. Like, I remember junior year, we all would get out of our cars and would be like, oh man, here we go, another day, like walking into this building, and it was just like so mentally tasking. And I think like we needed it. I mean, I know I needed it, like, and not to say that we needed a disease, or a pandemic, but to say that we needed that realization that came through that. I mean, I'm sure we would have found a way to find it out eventually, but I think, like Jackson said earlier, it may have been last episode, maybe in this episode, I can't really remember, but it's, to have that lesson this early in life is really valuable, but it's also, it's so sad that it took a pandemic for someone to tell us that, or for us to realize that, so.
Yeah. Obviously, looking at the time right now, we don't have time to dive into negatives, so stay tuned for our next episode on negatives during the pandemic. I hope you enjoyed us talking about how the pandemic has brought us mental clarity and a lot of help, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it may be. So please check out next episode, check out the episode after that, listen to our take, the students' take on COVID and how it has affected us. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out the latest content from JNN. You can stay up to date by following our social media accounts at Jaguar News Net on Twitter and at Jaguar News Network on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Also remember to use our promo code MCJNN when ordering online at Papa John's. This has been David Ramsey. Thank you.